Fentanyl patches, are they strong? Yes. When they're used on the skin, however, in the proper way, meaning that they're put in they come as a patch, sticky, put it on the skin, and that is fine. That's the way it's supposed to be used every 3 days. They are strong when they are actually cut up into small pieces, smoked or ingested. That's when the drug, instead of coming out of the patch in 3 days, it comes out immediately. It is extremely dangerous, extremely strong, and this is what leads to so many overdoses and fatalities. Are fentanyl and Dilaudid compatible? They're both opioids. Dilaudid, otherwise known as hydromorphone, is a pill. This is a prescription medication, and it comes in doses from 1 milligram all the way up to 8 milligrams generally. Dilaudid is not as strong as fentanyl. However, people will crush it and snort it to abuse it, and it does create a quicker high that way. To be compared, though, Dilaudid is fentanyl is probably about, I guess, maybe 30-40 times stronger than Dilaudid if you compare 1 milligram to microgram dose. So extremely strong, much more dangerous than Dilaudid. Fentanyl patches can only be obtained through prescription, but on the street they do command a high value, very expensive, because they're harder and harder to find. They are very expensive, going at $1 to $3 per microgram, so the patches come as 25, 50, 75, and 100 microgram doses, and the cost is $1 to $3 per microgram. So a patch of 50 micrograms can run you from $50 to $150 depending on the supply. Very expensive and very dangerous. Yet, ironically, this is the safer way, knowing a person, it's a safer way of knowing what you're getting, as opposed to fentanyl powder that's picked up on the street, made in a lab somewhere in China, or perhaps Canada, and this is a powder that is unknown, the concentration, and that's where the super dangerous part comes in. This is where most of the overdoses are happening, because users are taking it, not realizing what it is and how strong it is that they're ingesting or smoking. Fentanyl patches, are they addictive? Yes, all opioids are addictive, including fentanyl patches. They're a slow and steady state, makes it less of a peak and a trough compared to smoking it or ingesting it, which in that situation it's much quicker the hit and the withdrawal comes on faster. But still, the patch, when it's warm on the skin, still can be addictive, just not as quite as potent as smoking or ingesting it. The fentanyl patches are waterproof generally, except when a person is sweating extensively, it can fall off the skin. A lot of people who are chronic users with chronic pain have to end up replacing their patch every once in a while if they have excessive sweating. But also somebody who's going through overdose can be sweating too, and this is how another person can overdose on the fentanyl patch. It falls off, but the drug is still adhering to the skin, and they end up taking more patches and not realizing they've inadvertently overdosed, and this could lead to death. On a side note, this is an important one, that I lost my mother to a fentanyl incident, unintentional fentanyl overdose. She had been suffering with chronic pain for many years, had several back surgeries, and had a severe exacerbation of her pain lasting half a year or so. She had seen surgeons, and none of them wanted to treat her because she had had such a messed up back from all the previous surgeries. And there came a time in late October 2015 where she couldn't control her pain with it, and she took more than one patch. Her normal dose would have been 50 micrograms, but she escalated her dose, and I think she lost track of how many patches were on her person, and she unintentionally overdosed. And the next day we found her, she had stopped breathing, and she died. She had 3 patches of the 50 microgram dose on her person, and another one that had fallen off from the sweating and to her bed linens. And the coroner's report came back that she indeed had overdosed from fentanyl amongst other pain medications. She was also on hydromorphone and some Valium at the time. So this is a very real concern, that people from this walk of life, these are chronic pain sufferers, are not necessarily addicts, but they end up losing track of of how much they've had, and with the fentanyl patch, and this is where it becomes dangerous. Again, if a person adheres to the prescribing intervals, how often to take it, they won't run into problems. But in her case, she had taken a supratherapeutic, a higher than normal dose of it, and it led to her death. A lot of good things have come out because of that. There's much more public education on the fentanyl patches, and as well to prevent inappropriate use, like i.e. smoking or ingesting the patch. There's now a patch for patch program that the pharmacy will not dispense any more refills on fentanyl to the person who's been prescribed unless they can bring back all of the used patches. So that's a way of avoiding secretly giving patches to other people to abuse. Okay. Are fentanyl analogs legal? No, they're not. Fentanyl analogs, this is, if I understand that, we're talking about the different types of fentanyl. So there's the intravenous form that's used in hospitals for procedural sedations and painful treatments. It's a great medication to be using then. There's fentanyl in the patch, but the powdered form is fully illegal. There is no such thing as a fentanyl powder in the hospital system. That is something that has only started in the last few years. This is coming out of China. It's been proven. There might be some labs in Canada that are trying to make it as well. And this is all fully illegal and fully dangerous. Fentanyl patches are safe if they're being used as prescribed. So the doctor has prescribed what they think is the appropriate dose. The person wears it on their skin for 3 days, they remove it, and then they replace it with another patch. There's no problem in the situation. Should they feel a little bit woozy or sedated or sleepy, or if the caregivers notice a change in the behavior of the patient, then a reduced dose could be prescribed by their physician. But in general, when it's being used properly, the patch, it is safe.